Janice Character, who is one of the founding members of the Houston Women's March. And we have Sana Shahid, who is a part of the Houston Women's March as well in 2018. So why don't you just tell our audience a quick hi before we get started with the program. So Janice.
Good afternoon. I'm really excited to be here. I'm one of the founding members of the Houston Women's March and really excited to talk to you about what we have going on in the next 3 weeks.
Excellent, Janice. Sana.
Sana like the sun.
Sana. El Sol, yes.
Hey guys, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, look, it's great having you. Were alluding to that a lot of activists are screaming, but they're not really telling people what they need to do. I think some of what you guys are going to do is tell people specifically what they need to do. And what am I going to do within this blog of the week? Also tell people specifically what to do. So what specifically must Americans do? The resistance infrastructure has already been built. You heard that? The infrastructure for the resistance has already been built. It's been activated. We've been on it for years. The problem is it's not being used effectively. The only thing missing is you. I mean, people complain every day, oh, look at what the government is doing to me. Look at what Trump is doing to me. Look at what the Republicans are doing to me. No, look at what you are doing to you. You have to get your butt up. When these two women speak and tell you what they're going to do, you have to ask them what more can you do to help them do what they need to do. The only thing missing is you. First, go to indivisible.org. Is it .org? I think it's .org. I didn't put it here. Anyhow, it will guide you to a local group to work through. Be active in that group and suggest your own actions. There are many other groups like Our Revolution, Swing Left, etc., etc. Are you a right-wing person? Look for a swing right that is doing something positive. I really don't care. Just get our country moving again in the right direction. Janice, tell us a little bit about the Women's March, and tell me a little bit about the Women's March, and also tell me, and John and Scott, I'll be with you, and tell me what do you intend to do, and afterwards I'm going to go over a little kind of discussion that we had previous to the show. Go ahead.
Sounds good. I absolutely love your blog today because that's really why we're here. We want to talk about what people can do as individuals and what people can do as groups. You might remember that last year, right here in Houston, Texas, we had 22,000 women, men, and children who marched together down to City Hall, all expressing their shared values around love, tolerance, and diversity during the Houston Women's March. And that was the day after the inauguration.
Right.
And you know what really started that.
Yes, I do.
So this year, we're going to be marching again on January 20th, and we're inviting progressives to unite up and to join us during that march. Similar to what you've talked about, during 2017, we saw an unprecedented assault on public policies and the normal rule of law in America. So as people who are unwilling or who might even be unable to steward the public trust have assaulted our nearly 250-year history of government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So it's time for us to make our voices heard and to remake Congress, to remake our state and our region, so that we're choosing and electing women and men who will help people rather than enrich themselves and their donors. And I don't have to tell you who I'm talking about there. So what we're going to be doing is organizing progressives around the 4 C's, and they are causes, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Candidates, making sure that we have great women candidates and great progressive candidates, whether they're men or women. Communications, and a huge effort around getting out to vote, because that's going to be very important that we register people, we take people to the poll, and we let our voices be heard. And I'm going to let Sana talk about some of the other things that we're doing.
Okay, Sana.
Hey, my name is Sana. I am here. I marched last year, but I'm here helping organize this year's march because I think it's just as important to march this year as it was last year, because we've all seen what 2017 had in store.
Let me interrupt you a second, because
Please.
that's a very important statement. It's important. I would posit that it's even more important this year, because we were marching last year of what we thought they would have done. This year we are marching because we know
No.
what they're doing. What they've, you're right, what they've done and what they're doing. Sorry to interrupt. Continue,
No,
please.
please, that was thank you. And so we are marching this year so that people who haven't had a voice and people who haven't been don't know where to start and have a place to go to have their voices heard, to meet like-minded people, to feel like they are a part of something that will make a difference. Because marching, protesting, voting, it all matters. Because no matter what our government tries to do right now, we are still a democracy. America is still a democracy, and that's what this march is going to represent. It's going to represent America, and we want this march to be as diverse and inclusive as possible, because we live in Houston, which is the second most diverse city in the entire nation, and that's what America has become today as well. We're a diverse country, and so that's what this march is going to be as well. It's going to be a platform for people who don't feel like they have a voice to come together and stand for something.
You brought up the topic diversity, and I want to hit up that topic a little bit deeper, because again, I'm right here in the activist community as well. I'm a member of Indivisible, a member of Our Revolution, a member of a lot of these other organizations. And one of the things that is disconcerting to me is many times I'm one of the few black people, one of the few people of color, when the reality is the evils affected by the Trump administration disproportionately affect these people of color. They affect more people of color. They affect more people of religions, not Christian, etc., etc., etc. So my question to you is, as a member of this broad-based group, what exactly are you doing to enter into those communities that don't naturally come out to these activist type events? I've heard a whole lot of other organizations pondering the same or talking about the same problem. How can we make ourselves a place that these others want to be a part of, because they are, again, affected more so than others by what the Trump administration is doing?
We want to be a safe space for people who are part of minorities. We want to be somewhere where they feel like their voice is heard. And so as the Women's March, what we're doing personally right now is to reach out to these. We've identified the groups that we feel like don't get enough representation, and we are reaching out to them to make them a part of the march, to be represented. So to come to the march and represent their minority groups or whatever cause religion, people of color, whatever they align or identify as, to come and represent themselves, because we want this march to be as representative of Houston and America as possible.
Janice, I think you wanted to interject in here as well.
I just wanted, to make it clear that I don't want people to think that we marched last year and then we went home and didn't do anything until this year. So throughout 2017, we have been organizing in communities. As a result of the march last year, we did organize what we call huddle groups or cells group, where we brought people together from different communities with team captains to go back and lead dialogues within their community, lead actions and things that they were doing in their community to make sure that we were reaching people that you may not reach on a normal basis. We did training. We taught people how to talk to one another, how to have conversations with people who might have different political beliefs or different ideas than you. And then we also had people work on things that are in their community, because what might be important to you in your community may not be the same thing. Healthcare may not be an issue because
You work
from
for corporate America.
and my healthcare is great.
Right.
So we had those dialogues to continue doing 2017 as
Now,
well.
I'm going to get a touchy issue, and I'm going to do it sort of in a light manner, because I don't want it to consume the conversation here, because what you guys are already doing is great. But, I'm a Facebook fiend, and I noticed that there are some issues in Facebook that were concerning that concerned the current Women's March and how their approaches it with the community of color. What can you tell me, or what can you tell those people who are concerned that those concerns aren't met? What can you tell them to bring them into the fold? Because one of the problems I have with activist communities on the left specifically is that we fight too much among ourselves
Absolutely.
as we are. And one of the things I try to do as an activist, as a left-wing activist, is bring not only left-wingers together, but bring all kinds of people together. But that requires that everybody play their part in getting together. So what can you tell me about this, about this issue?
We've been inviting people from various groups to collaborate with us throughout the year. I mean, in fact, I don't know if you know, but we had a Me Too march back not too long ago where we collaborated with Black Lives Matter and with individuals group. And so we're constantly, I think where the misunderstanding came was that people think the Houston Women March is this big powerhouse. It's actually 5 women. You know,
5 women.
5 women that
got 22,000 people.
Yeah, well, actually, it was
good.
probably 4 or 5 at the time. They got the 22,000 people in 1 week, but
Right.
it's 5 of us. You know, we don't have a president, we don't have a vice president. We're not a very, very formal structure. So because of the fact that we weren't out there saying, here's our organization structure, or here's this big organization, I think people thought that we were trying to be some secret and
Or some select group.
some select group,
And you're not.
and we're not.
Okay.
And we're not. And there was, you know, saying that we didn't have representation of color. I'm an African American old woman, and I'm on
Don't
the
say
group,
old
so-
woman, because you're going to get me concerned of having to say I'm an old man, and I'm not going to say that.
And we are very diverse. You know, we send our messages out through the huddle groups. We've been on Facebook. We have many community rallies throughout, and so we've been very inclusive, and we invite people to join us. We really want their help. I can't represent every African American in the group. Sana cannot represent every Pakistani, and so we need their help. We need their voices, and we encourage them to come work with us.
Excellent. So, I mean, you wanted to add to that, or?
I just wanted to say, if we haven't reached out to you, please reach out to us, because like she said, we're only a group of 5 to 7 women. So just go to our website, Houston Women's March. Reach out to us, because we want your help. We want as many hands on deck to make this march as inclusive as possible.
Okay, so for all those Facebook users and Facebook folks who've been within this dialogue, you heard what Sana and Janice had to say. Contact them. Let's remember, folks, on the left, we have to stick together. We have to work together, and we have to do all these things to ensure that we reach the ultimate goal.
We need men. We need you guys to use, because as a man, you automatically have privilege and you have a platform that women don't have right now. And we need you guys to use your platform and use your privilege to be the voice for us when we can't be. So we need men to be our allies and to speak for us, and to have a man support the Women's March is going to make all the difference for us. So how to get involved would just be to be a good ally, to listen when women speak, to march with us, and to speak on behalf of us when we are talking about issues like equal pay and reproductive rights.
And we have several men who are involved. My husband is very involved. And what we're going to be doing over the next week, we're going to be videoing some of those men, and we're going to put it on Facebook. They're going to be talking about why they march. And I think that's going to be a really good avenue for men to look at to see why men are marching. And it's not going to be just because my wife told me so. I mean, they would have their own reasons around why they're marching.
Because the women's movement and the women's march can't be anything when we're doing it alone. We have to have, and it's something that Egberto, you touched upon. We can't do it by ourselves. We all have to come together to fight and fight for the cause that we believe in, and we need men to be our allies and to move this movement forward with us.
Could you go ahead and give the website again so that these men know where to get information?
Yes, it's HoustonWomen'sMarch.com. So it's HoustonWomen'sMarch.com.
I thought it was .org.
Okay, we're going to clarify this .com.
Yeah, it's .com.
Okay, before we go to Johnny, I want to ask you guys to tell us a little bit. Because people come and go from the show, so tell them exactly where this march is taking place, and if you know anything about the national one, because we also have a national audience, tell them about the national one as well, if you do know anything about it.
Okay, we're going to be gathering on January 20th at 9:30 a.m. on Sabine Street, and that's near Buffalo Bayou. And the march would start at 10 o'clock, and we will march to City Hall, where we'll have a number of speakers and activities. We're going to have DJ Gracie there. Many of you might be familiar with her. And we're also going to have Cam from the Sufferers who's going to be there.
Really?
Yeah, so
Wow.
we're really
She's gonna be there
excited
for
about that. And she will be there helping to kick us off. So we're really excited.
So again, what's the street that it starts on?
So
it
it's
starts
gonna-
on Sabine Street.
So it's if you want to put it in your GPS, it's easier to put in Waterworks Park.
Uh-huh.
So that's a skate park that's on Sabine Street.
Okay, Waterworks Park on Sabine Street, folks.
Yes, and so we'll start assembling there at 9:30. We'll kick off over to the city hall, and it's not that long of a march. It's 0.3 miles.
Oh, that's a
So
walk.
yeah, so it won't be that long. And also, if there are people who are older who want to attend, or people with disabilities who can't march with us, we still want them involved and we want them to show up as well. So you can go directly to City Hall. We will already have been set up there and there will be people there to welcome you. So if you can't march with us, that's okay. Still come, show up, come to City Hall.
And voter registrars are going to be there too.
Yeah, and we'll have people there to, we'll have voter registrars to register people to vote as well.
Excellent. Something I mentioned in the blog, I hope folks keep in mind, because we have some voter ID issues here in Texas and many other states. Or the voter register is going to also ensure that not only that they don't only register voters, but they also make them aware of the forms of identification that they'll need at the polls.
Yes, and we'll also have voting locations as well. So we have a lot of information for everyone.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know anything about the National Women's March as well? Give it for our national audience.
Not at the moment, but we can always get that information and get back to you on
Okay,
it.
great. We'll add that to the blog. Okay, let's go to line number 3 with Johnny. Because, you know, in radio, people come and go. So why don't you tell me about your women's group and the Women's March?
Let me start off by correcting myself. It was not .com. It is HoustonWomen'sMarch.org.
You owe an apology to this woman.
I apologize, also, you were right. It's HoustonWomen's.org.
Okay.
And so we really urge Houstonians to come out to this march because, like we talked about earlier, it was important for us to march in January, but I think it's so much more important to march now to keep that momentum going, B, to tell our government that we aren't okay with everything that they've done and continue to do to our country, and to stand for a more successful democracy. And so our march is going to be on January 20th at 10 a.m. where it's going to start from Waterworks Park, which is on Sabine Street, and we're going to march to City Hall.
And I do want to emphasize too that we still need volunteers. So if you're looking as a way to help and to make a difference, we need people to be community organizers. I know there are people that getting people together and getting buses to bring people in to downtown. We need marshals for the parade. For the march, to make sure that we're safe and that we have a very peaceful march. And then we're also looking for people to do sign making parties. So if you want to get together with your friends and make signs, that's would be great too. But I also want to mention that and remind people that signs are welcome, but the signs cannot be on sticks or poles. So make sure you don't come to the march with sticks and poles on your signs.
And another thing that I want you guys to know is that this is going to be a very large march that we're organizing. But large marches like this, it always comes down to it, but it always costs money. And so we do have a GoFundMe page, and you can just go to our website. It's HoustonWomen'sMarch.org, and there's a giant donate button on there. So if you aren't able to come to the march, you can always do your part by donating, because we have porta potties, we have police, we have what else are we paying for the sound system? This time we're going to have a much better sound system so that everybody who is attending the march, even people all the way in the back, can hear. So I know it's not fun to talk about money, it's not glamorous, but it really does come down to that to make sure we're successful. So if you are willing to donate, please do.
I don't want to interrupt you if you have some more to say, but I want to talk about the left side and money. The left side need to get over it as far as asking for money to move the project forward. The right wing has no problem funding themselves and asking for money. The left needs to ask for money, and the people need to contribute to the left, because the reason we are held so behind is because we are unfunded. So folks, if you can support Starbucks, or if you can support all these other businesses that are part of our plutocracy. Starbucks is a good company though. But for all these other companies that are part of the plutocracy, by God, you can support the movement that is trying to support the middle class and the poor. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to go ahead, Janice.
Yeah, I just also want to mention that we're going to have some beautiful T-shirts on sale, and they should be on our website within the next couple of days. So we encourage you to purchase a T-shirt to wear to the march. Then I also want to mention that we're going to have a great after party at the conclusion of the march, and we're going to have a group of artisans there who's going to be selling jewelry and other things that some of the proceeds would be going to the Houston Women's March as well.
So the after party is going to be at Axelrad right after the march. So come out, hang out with us, support small business, because that's really, if you support local, it will change where you live.
I hope you're going to play a little bit of salsa now.
Do you have the address for Axelrad?
I do not.
But they gave the name. It's going to be easy to find. Folks, look, thank you so kindly for listening to the show. Let me tell you, there are a lot of things happening, but we depend on you. You have to activate yourself now. You can't look back and say, look at what they've done to me. It's always going to be, look at what you've done to yourself if you don't participate. We need full participation. Please support the Women's March. Please support the left. Please support progressives. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.